What's poppin', y'all? This is RingWarriors TV, and we're diving into the big topics of the week. Like Jon Jones, is he half goat or half duck? And Michael Chandler, will he ever be a UFC champion? And finally, I know the perfect person to face Jake Paul next. Alright, y'all know what it is. It's Lou Too Sick. This is RingWarriors TV. Keep your hands up, baby. What's poppin', y'all? Coming to you live from Miami, Florida. Welcome to RingWarriors TV, your weekly breakdown of everything in the world of combat sports. Y'all know what we do here. We cover it all from professional wrestling to boxing, even MMA. This weekend was one of the bigger weekends that we've had in a while. Of course, we had Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. We had UFC 309, and that was Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. We're going to talk about it all, but first, let's pay those bills. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Hit a like on the video. Get it popping in the algorithm. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think of my viewpoints and my perspective. Let's talk it out. Let's talk all about it. We're creating a little community here, baby. And y'all know what we do. Y'all know what we about.
Violence.
I start with the big one from the weekend. Jon Jones' knockout victory over Stipe Miocic. And yes, it was a highlight reel finish. A spinning kick. But what does the fight really say about Jones' legacy and his next move? I mean, let's start with the fight itself. Jones didn't look perfect, but his toolkit was on full display. A dominant takedown in the first round set the tone with some ground and pound that left no doubt. Jones, he still got it. From there, it was all Jon Jones. And Miocic, on the other hand, my man was looking old. I mean, he looked every bit 41 years old. I mean, his movement was slow. His punches were slow. Still, he was landing on Jones, but just not landing anything substantial. And nearly 4 years out of the octagon, it showed. Miocic, his reflexes were slow. He was not sharp at all. And after the second round, it was clear. This fight, well, it was Jones's to lose. And let's give credit where it's due. Jones, well, he closed the show in spectacular fashion. I mean, he had a job, and the mission, well, it was accomplished. But with that being said, let's look ahead now. And the big question moving forward is, who's Jones going to fight next? And this is what really gets me concerned, because right after the fight, in the octagon, surrounded by the glory of all the fans, he said, "Hey fans, I'm gonna give you what you want. Me and Uncle Dana are gonna talk about it." But an hour later, he was singing a different tune. Take a listen.
I'm not really worried about the Tom fight. I'm really worried about the Pereira fight. That's what I want to do. I want to take what I find to be super fights. I don't want to fight dangerous up-and-comers anymore.
Now, is Aspinall the current interim champ and up-and-comer? No, absolutely not. I mean, we've seen from him in the past that he's faced legitimate contenders, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, and what's he done with them? Well, he's handled them pretty easily, all right? The true fact of the matter is, I think Jones is hesitating. He's nervous. Stipe was slow on Saturday night, and he still caught Jones with a few shots. Now, what do you think a guy like Tom Aspinall, who just watched his fights, his speed, his athleticism is paramount compared to Stipe? What do you think will happen when he faces Jones? Now, Jones's pattern is clear. He waits until his opponents are past their prime before stepping in. We saw it with Francis Ngannou, and we just witnessed it with Stipe. Now, it's Aspinall's turn to sit on the bench while Jones stalls. And what about Alex Pereira?
You know what tonight told me? There's no fucking way I make the Pereira fight.
Okay.
John's too big. Great wrestler. See how he took Stipe down in that first round?
Yeah, Dana White took the words out of my mouth. I mean, an Aspinall fight for Jon Jones specifically, well, that offers him a chance to please the masses. And that's something that he desperately needs right now. I mean, yeah, he's the greatest of all time, but his antics and his lack of connection with the fans, well, that's starting to be seen, and it's evident. A fight with Aspinall could be the thing that changes that narrative. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It's actually needed right now. It's needed for Jones to cement his legacy. Because honestly, what's the good of being the greatest of all time? That when you hang up the gloves, people are like, good riddance. And then once you finally do leave, you're just forgotten. All right, y'all, in the co-main event, well, we saw Charles Oliveira. He walked away from a 5-round unanimous decision victory, pretty dominant too, over Michael Chandler. And if I'm a coach, well, this fight is one I'd still show my fighters. But not just for Oliveira's technical skill. He perhaps came out more controlled than ever before, but what really stood out for me was Chandler's heart. For nearly 20 minutes, he was taken down, controlled, and beaten up. But he kept fighting with everything he had. And here's where it gets kind of like complicated for me. I mean, Chandler, well, he didn't fight clean. I mean, we saw him grab the cage multiple times when being taken down. We also saw him throw some wild punches to the back of the head. I mean, it's moves like these that are overshadowing all that toughness. I mean, let's take the final round, for example. Everybody should be talking about that. But this week, it seems like everybody's talking about all the dirty moves that he was doing. But in the last round, shoot, some can say it was legendary. Chandler went out for a knockout and he almost succeeded. Oliveira got the takedown, but Chandler kept going, eventually squatting Oliveira in the middle of the octagon and slamming him to the mat twice with Oliveira on his back. It was impressive considering how tired these guys are. Now with the win, you'd have to think Charles is in line for another big name, maybe an Arman, maybe an Islam Makhachev, since the UFC tried doing that over a year ago and Volkanovski had to step in. For Chandler though, this presents, a tough reality. He has to ask himself this question. Is the window for a UFC title effectively closing? I mean, he's faced the best. Oliveira, Poirier, Gaethje, and while he's given us unforgettable wars, he's fallen short each time. But here's the real problem. When desperation comes into play, that's where we see dirty tactics come out. And we've seen this happen with Chandler now in Saturday's fight and with the Dustin Poirier fight. And this is definitely a bad look for someone who prides himself in being the utmost professional. So what's next for him? Well, let's not forget that Chandler's journey over the past 2 years has been wild. I mean, constant pressure, appearing on reality TV shows, a failed matchup with Conor McGregor. Well, now he says he's going to take it around a year off, and I think he deserves it. Go, recharge, reset, and get back. And now fans are upset with him, and I understand that. But when he does come back, let's appreciate Michael Chandler. Because just like Dustin Poirier, just like Charles Oliveira, all the guys that we love, Justin Gaethje, Chandler has shown that he is purely for the fans. In the heat of the moment, some dirty tactics might come out, but at the end of the day, it's for one reason and one reason only, and that's for our entertainment. All right, y'all, in the last UFC fight that we're going to talk about on that card, well, Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. Bo Nickal won, but heading into this week, it really feels like he lost. Why? Well, that's because fans in the arena let him have it. They were chanting overrated, and honestly, they might have a point. Nickal's performance, let's just say if he had Khamzat Chimaev in there or any other of the names that he's called out, it would have been ugly. Nickal outpointed Paul Craig, but his entire offense relied on one thing: overhand rights. That's it. There was no striking variety, no grappling showcase, nothing that screamed future champion. And isn't that exactly what the UFC's been selling to us? Still, again, we have to give credit where credit is due, and Nickal had the job on Saturday night to win, and he got the win. Now, let's shift focus a little bit, because I think this fight was more about what Paul Craig didn't do and more about what Bo Nickal did. I mean, Craig had opportunities to open up, especially in the third round, but he played it safe. He ate some tough shots from Nickal, sure, but when it was time to lay it all on the line, he didn't. Instead, he stood there, trash-talking, acting like he had the fight in the bag. So, really, the question for me is, how does a seasoned UFC veteran like Paul Craig lose to a guy with 6 all-time professional fights? And for Nickal, look, I'll be fair. The hype surrounding him isn't entirely his fault. He's a decorated wrestler, and the UFC loves marketing him as the next best thing. But here's the reality. Potential only gets you so far, especially in the brutal middleweight division. Now what we are seeing is that Nickal's rise is turning out to be a double-edged sword. Every win puts him closer to tougher opponents. But yes, these guys will exploit holes in his game. And on Saturday night, well, we saw those holes. So is Bo Nickal overrated, or was it just an off night? The UFC loves to fast track their stars, and Nickal seems to be one of the guys that they've chosen. But if they do it too fast, well, they could risk Bo turning into a dude like Sage Northcutt or Darren Till.
Question for Mike Tyson.
Doesn't matter what the question is. Jake Paul, the biggest clown.
All right, y'all, finishing off, we've already recapped Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, so if you haven't, make sure you check out that video. Now let's dive into what could be next for Jake Paul. And what could be next, recently, Artur Beterbiev, the unified light heavyweight champ, well, he hinted at he'd be open to stepping in the ring with Jake Paul. Do I actually think that fight is going to happen? No, that's because Beterbiev will eat his food crazy. Instead, I think there's another matchup that basically appeared last week out of nowhere. No one's talking about it, but for me, that's what I want to see. Take a listen.
Mike lets him survive on Saturday night. I've got a great-grandfather, not a grandfather. This guy's got 2 hits.
Yeah, you heard that? Well, I know that video is a little rough, but that guy you saw in there with the old dude, well, that is Tony Bellew. Who is Tony Bellew? Well, remember Pretty Ricky Conlon from the Creed movies? That's Tony Bellew. Yeah, this weekend, Tony popped up at a Jake Paul and Mike Tyson pre-fight press conference to personally call out Jake. He even brought some old man as a prop. It was weird, yes, but hey, it got attention. And honestly, guys, I love this. I mean, Tony Bellew, my man does not play around. Former cruiserweight champ, former light heavyweight champion. I mean, this dude has a reputation. The dude is tough. If you haven't, just Google his fights with David Haye. For Jake, this isn't about chasing titles or risking it all against someone like Beterbiev. It's about facing a former champion who brings, well, credibility. A guy who's not in his prime and still gives him a chance to win. I mean, it's better than the social media stars and old MMA fighters that we've seen in the past. This is a fight that fans can get behind. It's competitive, it's entertaining, and it actually benefits Jake Paul's career if he puts on a solid performance. So honestly, I'm all for it. Jake Paul versus Tony Bellew. Let's make it happen. That's y'all, and that's your boy Lou Too Sick. This was this week's edition of Ring Warriors TV. Make sure you subscribe because we got more stuff coming throughout the week. Some weekly updates, some more reactions, some shorts, history videos, list videos, all that. If it pertains to violence, we are covering it. Just stay tuned and keep those hands up, baby.
Every time I wake up, shit feel the same. Got a million thoughts and they weighing on my brain. Sipping on my favorite liquor just to ease the pain. Cause I feel like I'm crazy and desperate need to change. Making plans to move and talking state to state. Talking pounds and haze, medical high grade. Look how my eyes stay, what more can I say? How dare a nigga tell me that this rap won't work?